Good evening and welcome to Club Live. We are Club at 22, the Rangers podcast. I am Nicky, your host tonight. It is Friday night. As always, we are live on YouTube. Please like, please subscribe, and as ever, get involved in the comments. We'll try and get up as many of them as we possibly can. And if we've got time at the end of a fairly packed agenda, we'll come on to some questions as well. So feel free to get your comments and your questions in. We are fairly light on the ground tonight, as you will see, but I am delighted to say that tonight I have Ross joining me. Ross, how are you, mate, and how's your week been?
Good evening, mate. Good evening, chat. Yep, all good here, thank you, mate. All the better for a good Rangers performance last night. No, it's the B team tonight, isn't it? I think Scott and Jamie are away living it large. So we are here as always. No other place to be on a Friday night. So no, good, mate. Good to be on. Let's crack right on.
Happy days, mate. No, listen, I'm delighted to have you on, mate. You're right. I think it's been a fairly positive start. I think it's a massive week for Rangers. I've said that for a couple of days now. Post the Kilmarnock game, this is the kind of week that could be make or break, to be honest, for Clermont and certainly parts of this squad. And we've got three massive games. Obviously, we had FCSB or Steaua Bucharest, as they were previously named last night, which we'll come on and obviously spend a bit of time talking about because it was a great result and a great performance. We'll obviously get St Mirren. We'll have a bit of a preview of the game on Sunday. We're back at Ibrox, albeit it's a 3 p.m. on Sunday as opposed to 3 p.m. on Saturday. But we're back at Ibrox, St Mirren, second leg of a monumental, as I say, treble of fixtures. And then obviously we'll get Aberdeen in the middle of next week as well, mate. So we have lots to get through. And as you mentioned, yes, we are obviously light. Scott and Jamie are off enjoying themselves tonight. I don't know what they're up to. I think Ali is missing as well, as is Ryan. So it's just the two of us. So, Ross, there's only one place to start, mate. Obviously, the game last night, FCSB, 4-0 Rangers, a really big result. I said after the Malmo game, we tough fixtures coming up. Obviously, the Lyon game was a big fixture. We obviously seen the outcome of how that went. If you look later on in our kind of fixture list, we have some big ties as well, right? We've got Spurs, we've got Man United. They will be two massive tests for us. So I without having any disrespect to the other teams in the Europa League, games like last night, FCSB, we had to go and maximise and take full points, particularly at home as well. So what that does, obviously, for everybody knows the format of the new Europa League. 36 teams. I think the top 8 automatically go through to the last 16. I think the 16 below that go through into essentially a round of 32, and the winners of those ties will go on to play the teams that finish top 8, and ultimately the bottom half will kind of go out. But last night puts us 11th out of 36 at the minute. A good position. We have a couple of, I don't want to say favourable ties, but I think when you look at the names on paper, the next two fixtures for us are, again, big opportunities for us to go and put more points on the board. We've now got 6 points out of 9. I said, I think at the start of this campaign, you're probably looking at 9, 10, maybe 11 points to try and get through, certainly in those kind of top 24 places or so. But Ross, what was your overall thoughts on last night's game, mate? What was your overall views?
Oh, absolutely delighted, mate. Absolutely delighted. Obviously, the disappointment for the weekend, you had to come in and get a bit of a bounce. Don't get me wrong, I'll caveat it with, I don't think they were great. I don't think FCSB are going to be the best team we're going to play in the competition. But at the end of the day, we're football fans, mate, so we need to enjoy when our teams win 4-0, especially in Europe. You're right, sitting 11th is brilliant. You know, I think if you were to take the first 3 games before the campaign started, I'd probably said 6 points, maybe even 4 points. Obviously, you had Lyon, Malmo away, looked like a tricky fixture. And I think last night's game was the banker of 3 points. So to come away 6 points out of 9 is superb, it's brilliant. I think if you look at it from the football we've seen in the park, individually, especially last night, was where it needs to be going forward. I, I hope that it's not a coincidence that we're seeing good performances only in Europe at the moment. I think domestically, there's maybe some players who, they maybe turn it up a gear on a Thursday night, which again is an issue for another day. Well, obviously we're talking about the Europa League just now, but overall, mate, delighted. I'm sure we'll crack into the bones of the game, but overall, coming away from it 4-0 in Europe, no complaints at all from me.
Absolutely, mate. I think just looking ahead at the fixtures, we obviously have 5 fixtures left. It's now 8 fixtures you play as opposed to the traditional 6. Olympiacos away as our next fixture, Nice away as well before we then come back at home. We'll then get Spurs at home, Manchester United away, and then we finish it USG at home as well. So as I say, without being defeatist, Spurs and Man United, I think, will be very difficult games. I think Olympiacos away, Nice away, USG at home. I think there's big opportunities there for us to pick up points and put more points on the board. But you're right, Ross. Let's go in and obviously dissect a wee bit last night. I think firstly, just on the teammate, obviously there was a lot of noise about Clement's selection on Sunday. It was a really poor performance at Rugby Park where we were beaten. Not a huge amount of changes. Last night we started obviously Butland, Tavernier, Suter, Balogun came in for Proper, who was on the bench, I assume just precautionary. Jefte left back, Raskin came in, which surprised me. He was alongside Barron in centre mid, Lawrence slightly ahead, Cherny on the right, Barami on the left, and obviously D9 or Dessers through the middle, mate. Was there any major surprises? What was your thoughts on the team selection last night, mate?
Yeah, I think it was probably, other than obviously Raskin and Balogun, probably the team expected. For me, first, I was delighted to see Balogun play. I love Balogun. I also think one thing that's been going about the group chat is that I do generally believe Balogun's our best defender still. And the fact that we're here in 2024 and that's still the case is a bit baffling, but it's take no credit away from him at all. I thought he was brilliant again last night and can be a real asset to us, especially this season. Yeah, I think the team probably named itself, but there's definitely a few names in there that after last night's game you might not see being that starting 11. I'm indicating that D9 there, but no, mate, listen, it was a strong team. Again, people say, obviously the ones to have it right back, he's always going to play in those home games at Ibrox, and yeah, I team went out and got off to a great start.
We did, mate. To be honest, I probably expected Balogun to come in, obviously Proper limped off at Rugby Park. I was surprised with Raskin come in. I thought he would have stuck with these traditional 3 of Barron, Diomande and Lawrence, but it was a pleasant surprise. And obviously, in hindsight, Raskin, which we'll come on and talk about performance-wise, I thought was great last night. But obviously the goals, 4-0, Lawrence started off the scoring. Cherny loses the ball on the right-hand side. I think Tavernier wins it, plays a nice ball through to Cherny, who gets beyond his man, and it's a cutback, right? It's something that we cry out for here as Rangers, is why do we not get to the byline more and fire balls across the box? Why do we not cut it back? And Tom Lawrence, I was going to say it was a good finish. I think he mishit it, to be honest. He kind of hit it into the ground, but hey-ho, it went in. We then seen obviously 2 really good goals from Cherny. The first one I think was pretty poor defending from Bucharest, to be perfectly honest. I thought we pressed well, but ultimately they lost the ball. I thought Cherny, when I seen it, I thought, what the hell are you doing? Because he drove in on his right-hand side, and before now, or before last night, I thought his right leg is clearly for standing on only, but he then curls a brilliant shot around their goalkeeper into the far post with his right foot. Cherny then scores again. Brilliant play, by the way. This Cherny goal was brilliant. It actually really reminded me, I don't know if you remember this, Ross, of a few years ago, Ryan Kent scored against Antwerp. It was one of that mad game where it ended up like 8-4 or something daft like that on aggregate. But it was very similar in terms of kind of passing about the back, intricate into Tavernier. It kind of came inside the park, out wide. I think if you remember the Kent goal, it went out wide to Morelos. He goes by the defender and crosses it in for Kent. But obviously with this one, I was expecting Tierney to cross it, to be honest, but he tucks inside brilliantly, leaves the defender for dead, and again tucks the ball into the far post, and then Igaman, I don't know about you, Ross, but I was absolutely delighted to see him get off the mark on the score sheet. Again, industrious by Barron. I loved Ali McCoist's commentary that he's all over him like a rash. I thought it was brilliant. But he was right. It was really aggressive midfield play. He wins the ball, and Igaman does well. He stands the defender up. A wee step over, goes by him, and fires one into the bottom corner, mate. But I think for me, Ross, really pleasing to see guys starting to contribute. Good to see us scoring goals and creating lots of chances and being clinical for once. But what was your thoughts on the goals, mate? And was there any favourites from last night?
Favourites definitely Tierney. I think both of them. I think you're right. The third one's altogether. That's a great goal. From Butland all the way to middle of the park, and then just that wee drop of the shoulder, brilliant. Absolutely love it. I think coming away from last night, I just think it's so refreshing to see us scoring a good selection of goals again. You know, goals you can actually, like, if you saw on the telly after the game, if you had to look at it, you go, aye, that's a cracker. So from that point of view, I thought it was brilliant. Igamani, I just touched on Igamani quickly. I remember I was watching the game and I remember he was through on goal, obviously got a few defenders around him. In my head, I'm thinking, right, I don't be too dramatic. He could get written off here if he doesn't get it by him. You know what the Ibrox crowd is like? Honest, when he's through on goal, he can either make a name for himself or the crowd's on his back, and I'm glad that he scored. Absolutely brilliant from the lad, and you're right, delighted for him. Didn't celebrate awfully much, didn't look too enthusiastic. I don't know if he's maybe had a bit of a confidence knock, but I thought whenever he was going through and goal, I was just thinking, aye, that's a big opportunity for him to really stake his name in with the fans, and hopefully getting back into discussion again, because there was such a high regard held on him whenever he came on. So it's brilliant to see him get on the score sheet. Tom Lawrence as well, you know, it's one thing we cry out for is goals all over the park. That's his 5th goal of the season, and a guy who I thought was really good last night. I thought he was really solid until obviously came off. But just it was a lot more refreshing last night. It wasn't maybe a scrappy goal. You're maybe, you know, looking where's the goal going to come from. There was real quality in front of the goal, and it's something that we've lacked for a good amount of time. And you're like, mate, see instead of humping the ball in and hoping for Dessers to be there, just pass the edge of the box. You see what happens. And aye, the longer we do that, the better. So yeah, finally, mate, some killer instinct in front of goal, and more of that, please. That'd be brilliant, Mr. Rangers.
Absolutely, mate, and I think yes, it was good to see some of these guys starting to contribute. It's things that we've cried out for a long time, right? We don't get enough numbers from our front three, our front four. Certainly the guys behind Dessers. I know Dessers. We'll come on and talk about him individually. I think it's necessary that we talk about him and his impact last night, and obviously the instant. But yeah, last season he scored 22 goals. I think if you look out with him, we just simply don't get enough numbers across other areas of the park. What I wanted to do, Ross, was I wanted just to pick out a couple of players who I thought were particularly good last night. First one is Nico Raskin. Nico Raskin, for me, has been fairly inconsistent, I think, for lack of a better phrase, since he came to Rangers. Nico Raskin was very highly thought of in Belgium before he came. I know he's a mainstay with the under-21 squad. I know the Belgian national team is filled with superstars. But Nico Raskin was a player that when we brought him in, I was buzzing that we brought in Nico Raskin, because I felt at that time we hadn't invested in our midfield, and we hadn't invested enough. And I know we didn't spend huge money on Raskin. We managed to take advantage of, I think, his contract situation, but he was in high demand, and I've taken a wee bit of stick, but for a long time, even though Raskin has had these wee periods of inconsistency, he's also been quite unfortunate with injuries for me, Nico Raskin, over the last 2 years or so that he's been at the club. He's also shown these wee purple patches that I guess maybe where I'm basing my thoughts on. I don't think Nico Raskin is traditionally a number 6. I think he is probably slightly better as an 8. And I remember when he first came to us, there was a Belgian journalist guy or a kind of sports journalist did say he is probably better, slightly more advanced. And we've seen that in a few games. But for me, I think given that we didn't invest in a proper number 6 in the summer, Ross, for me, Nico Raskin is the best 6 we have at this club. And the reason I say that is, yes, there will be some games where Nico Raskin might not be enough, right? I'm thinking about big games, maybe at Celtic Park, games like we're away at Old Trafford, where you maybe need somebody who's a bit more powerhouse, a bit more that sort of defensive minded that will just win the ball. Nico Raskin, for me, however, is tenacious. I think he's got lots of energy. He covers ground really, really well. And for me, if I think about 90% of the games that Rangers play, particularly domestically, it's basically a case of breaking other teams down, right? Because they've got 10 man camped in our half. And I think what we want or what we need from a number 6 is somebody who will cover ground quickly, win the ball back, and play forward quickly. And Nico Raskin, I think, is the best at our club at doing that. I think if you look at his stats in terms of his percentage of passes that go forward, his ability to break lines, his ability to carry the ball as well, I think he's the best number 6. And I'm not saying he's perfect, right? But I think he's the best number 6 at our club. And last night I thought he was brilliant. I think he had a few wee periods where he maybe lost the ball. He was a wee bit sloppy. I would maybe give him the benefit of doubt and say that's maybe just down to match fitness. He's not played a huge amount. But I thought Nico Raskin was outstanding last night. And I am hoping that this is maybe the game that just allows him to kick on a wee bit.
Definitely. No, I completely agree. I'm a big fan of Raskin. I think one thing that I love about him, he seems to have a good eye for the game. He's quite an intelligent player. Even there's been times at Ibrox and where I sit and usually sit up in the club deck, and there's either, it can go past to either the full back or even out to the wing, and occasionally even just simply dinking it over into somebody else in the midfield. He's got an eye to kind of open the game up and create things out of nowhere. It's maybe a bit of a audacious comparison, but whenever we lost a player like Stephen Davis, see, to somebody who just can pick up the ball and just has that wee bit of quality, I'm kind of getting a wee bit of that we're asking, somebody who, as you say, can break the lines. I was a wee bit sceptical that Clement wasn't going to be a fan of Raskin. Obviously, whenever Raskin and Clement comes in, you have the Belgium link there, and you're automatically putting 2 and 2 together and hoping that it works. And it didn't look like that for a wee while. So it's really good to see Raskin getting, a performance like that I think he's probably needed, to be honest. He's needed a performance to kind of, as I say, stake a claim in the team. And if he can play like that for the rest of the season, he could be in contention for potentially being a starter. I think you're right. You need, for going away to a Man U, maybe need is that even a place for a Dujon Sterling? Do you have somebody with a bit, obviously Raskin's quite a
you need that kind of destroyer type, don't you? Maybe for these big games, the kind of destroyer that you traditionally think of. But you're right, Nico Raskin, I think 90% of the games that we play, teams aren't interested in attacking us, right? We don't need that destroyer type. We need a guy who's got ability to win the ball back, and I think Raskin has that. I think his interceptions, his recoveries, his duels stats are really, really strong, and it's just about getting the ball and recycling it. And when I say recycle it, I'm not looking for some of the pish that we've seen under John Lundstrom, where he would stand beside our centre halves and just pass the ball. I'm talking about, you take Kilmarnock or Dundee or Ross County as an example. If they manage to venture up the park and get into our half of the pitch, we need somebody who's going to win the ball back quickly, like Raskin, and get the ball as quickly back into their half as possible. Not allow them to set, because that's what happens, right? When we foot it about and we pass it to Tavernier, we pass it back into Suter, it gets back to centre mid, it gets back out the. You know what I mean? The opposition teams have just get perfect opportunity to just reset themselves. We need somebody who's going to break lines, break press quickly, get it into our guys who are our number 8s, our number 10s, our wingers, whatever it is. And that's where we'll hurt teams, mate. And I think Raskin kind of portrayed that a wee bit last night.
I know, definitely, mate, definitely. One thing you mentioned is the speed of it as well. there was one occasion in the first half where I think Raskin he lost the ball in the middle of the park, which was, I agree, giving them the benefit of the doubt. I think altogether we were losing the ball. It was the final ball at times was poor, but Raskin he lost the ball straight away. But right away he was back to get the ball, and it was against one of their, I think it was, I can't remember. Can't remember who it was. He had quite a high number in the back of his shirt. That's all I remember from him. But he's quite a fast lad on him. And Raskin went and nicked the ball back. And again, as you say, forward, not playing it out wide. Actually, because that's ultimately what's going to slow our play down. The one thing that we say is that Rangers have been so lethargic, so lacklustre. When you have somebody like Raskin who can bring that wee bit of zip, wee bit of what we need, that's that's all we're asking for. Another thing we're asking as well is that he's, again, I don't want to look too far into the future, but if he can get onto a good run of form, if he can, be the guy I hope he can be, Raskin's a serious asset for our club. If he is a player
Yeah.
that, if you look at obviously the Belgium national team, especially in that midfield, you are stacked with quality. They're spoilt for choice. But if you look at Raskin coming in, potentially one day, could he be the next, your Calvin Bassey fee? Could he be somebody who can move on for a bigger profit? So, the more the merrier with Raskin, mate. I'm a big fan of him, and as long as he can keep that form up, I'd be keeping him in the team just now.
Yeah, for me, mate, I think what Clement and that needs to do is show a bit of faith in him. I think he's shown a bit of faith with people who he probably shouldn't have. I think he's shown faith with guys who are going through the motions. I think he's shown faith with guys who are not performing at the minute. It seems to be he has his wee favourites. Raskin, I think, traditionally, if he doesn't perform, is out the team next week. I think, given where Raskin's at, his injuries, etc., you need to allow him to play into form. If he has a wee off game against St Mirren or whatever it is, put him back in the team, allow him to build that confidence and just build up his match fitness. But Ross, I want to talk about another one. I think it would be harsh of me not to mention Connor Barron as well. Connor Barron has traditionally been playing the position that Raskin was last night. He found himself doing a wee bit of rotation with Raskin, but in my opinion, he was slightly further forward, which is where I think he excelled at Aberdeen. He's tenacious, he's got lots of energy, he's dynamic, he hassles folk, and he found himself probably slightly further forward in his more traditional number 8 position. And I was torn, Ross, between who was man of the match last night, Raskin, Barron. I could see arguments for both. Barron, again, I thought was sensational. I think Barron's been a breath of fresh air coming into this team because he's shown those basics that we have not seen for a while. The energy, the chasing down people, the aggression, the desire to win the ball. And seeing that slightly further up the park, I thought was fantastic. And again, it comes back to, would that benefit us more versus a Kilmarnock, versus a Dundee, versus a Ross County, who are all camped on the edge of the box? If we can win the ball back and deep in their half with the energy and the aggression of people like Barron, then we can go and hurt teams. But last night, again, I thought Barron was absolutely sensational. And I think it was epitomised in the Igaman goal at the end there, mate. A ball that he really had no right to win. He was about 5 or 10 yards behind the guy when the ball went into him. But he goes in, he wins the ball, Igaman goes up and scores. And I think that just reflected his performance right through the night, mate.
Definitely another spot on. I was going to say I think that's one of his first assists for the club. So again, racking up numbers. So no, listen, Barron, you're right. He's a complete game changer just now. He's very much a player who you'll probably see in the back of wee boy shirts coming up very soon. He's a guy who I imagine is quite influential to kind of younger generation. And as we say, you expect the minimum, a wee bit of effort from players, but I think when you see a young player like Barron, it's a credit to him, and it should hopefully bleed its way into the rest of the team. It's also good to just have that homegrown element back in, even to simple things. Our team's quite. If you look at the likes of your Cortez, your Tierney, Igamani, in terms of a kind of global look at it, we're quite a worldwide club. Having players foundationally from, when you lose a player like a Ryan, Jack, etc., you'd players back in there who understand fully what it means, and in your games that, like your old firms who maybe, do they get it yet? Do they get it? Barron gets it 100%. I think he understands not just what it means, but he understands what playing for Rangers means. So no, mate, I could chat for hours about Conor Barron. He's sensational. And aye, just him and Raskin, as you say, complement each other really absolutely perfectly.
They did, mate. And sorry, one last player that I wouldn't mind just touching on, who again I thought was fantastic, and a guy who at the minute I think seems to be getting better every single week was Jefte at left back. I thought defensively he was sound right through the night. I don't really remember their right hand side troubling him much. I remember him covering well, last man, couple of last stitch headers that he won. But how aggressive he was going forward, I thought was sensational last night. And it's been a while. I mean, we've seen patches of it with Yilmaz when he's been fit. But one of the things that I said about Jefte that I really liked about him was his ability to stand up an opposition and just go by him. He's got that electric pace, acceleration to go by. And I remember there was one particular point where I think it was actually the point when Dessers get poked in the eye, which we'll come on and talk about. But the ball does go out to Jefte. He kind of stands up the right mid or the right winger, whoever it was. And I thought he's never getting, just went by him with breeze, an absolute breeze, right? He's very, very quick. And again, he just adds a different dimension, I think, to us in terms of the way we play. I think traditionally we were obviously very, very good in the 55 season with Tavernier and Barisic on opposite sides, but we were quite one-dimensional. We're still very reliant on them going kind of overlap because we kind of played the two tens, if the old Michael Beale kind of two tens that he referred to, and they kind of went beyond. And it's easy to work out, and actually it can be quite difficult because if you're just relying on this and you're playing these teams like Kilmarnock, like Dundee, who park 7 and 8 6'1" defenders in your box, right? You're not going to win a lot of headers. So I think Jefte just gives us a completely different dynamic because he can go on the outside, he can overlap, he comes inside the pitch and affects play. And that causes panic, right? When he comes inside the pitch and he goes by the right mid or the right back or whoever it is, it causes panic, right? Because your centre back, your centre mid's going, who's taking him, who's going to him, who's leaving my existing man, etc., etc. But again, I think he's getting better and better. Another one who, like Raskin, like Barron, is a really good profile, young, athletic, has those physical attributes that we severely lack through this squad. But again, I thought Jefte was fantastic last night as well.
No, he's brilliant. I think sometimes with footballers, if you don't necessarily notice them all the time, they're doing a good job. I just feel like Jefty's kind of doing his job, getting on with it, and becoming a real staple in the first team. I think a bit of credit, I guess, to on Jefty. Maybe it's looking at come on in the recruitment staff, getting in the youth players. I don't think it's a coincidence the three players that we're highlighting are three young talents. If this is if Clement's going to be our guy, if the next generation of Rangers is these youth players, brilliant, because we see what happens with it. Even the likes of your Casemiro's, there's just that wee bit of energy, wee bit of something we've lacked. But again, that's taking nothing away from Jeff himself. Technically, I think he's very underrated. I think there's been times where he's been on that left hand side. The ball at his feet, he's outstanding. He's really, really decent. Starting to get decent at putting a ball in the box, and I think another player as well who's starting to probably get what it means to play for Rangers. You can see that he's probably starting to buy into it. So, no, listen, I think Jefte again, the more the merrier. There's the phrase. Another guy as well. I think Tierney last night was obviously, other than scoring the 2 goals, in terms of kind of getting it with the fans. I think you're seeing a lot more interactions with Tierney and the fans. You could see in the first half he was going up to cheering the fans up, etc. I don't know if it's maybe just taking a while for some players to really settle in. You could probably maybe put Jefte into that scenario. Obviously, I remember watching the post match of the Berlin game and a certain Alistair Pearson not being too pleased with him. But there's players like Jefte, like Tierney, who maybe it is just take a wee bit of patience to get them up to where we need to. Obviously, again, I'll not get too ahead of myself. Again, last night maybe wasn't the best quality of opposition, but you can only play what you're up against, and so far, Jefte has been an absolute credit.
He has been, mate, and I think he's another one who will continue to get better. And Tierney will come on and we'll chat about in a wee second. But he was one that I did see a couple of instances where he won the ball back and he was kind of encouraging the crowd. I think it all comes back to that synergy, which is really big, that Clement tries to drive as well. But no, we'll come on and talk about them in a wee minute. Obviously, our fearless leader, Mr. Carney, cannot be with us tonight in body, but he will be with us in spirit because he has done us the delights of recording the Manscaped promo, which we will go on to now.
This episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. Introducing Manscaped's newest innovation, the Chairman Pro, the game-changing tool that brings the luxury of a professional shave right into your home. Whether you're after that daily silky smooth finish or prefer to maintain a rugged 5 o'clock shadow, their Chairman Pro electric foil shaver is your go-to for precision and style every time. Head over to manscaped.com and join over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using the code CLUBAT22 for 20% off and free shipping. You have the skin-safe 4-blade foil for that close, smooth shave when you're looking to go completely clean. And if a clean shave isn't your style, just switch to the skin-safe stubble trimmer to keep your stubble looking sharp and polished. The Chairman Pro comes with unique Flex Adjust technology, helping you maintain great contact with your skin at every angle. And here's something that's going to make your grooming routine even easier. The Chairman Pro is waterproof. The Chairman Pro is so powerful it can tackle up to a 5-day growth, making it perfect whether you're shaving every day or just tidying up after a few days. Get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code CLUBAT22 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code CLUBAT22 at manscaped.com.
Expertly done by Mr. Carney. He's an absolute pro. And I think Billy McWhirter, you're right, young Ross has dodged a bullet, but Mr. Carney assures us that Ross will get his 15 minutes of fame. He will do the Manscaped promo. We're just working up schedules and we'll get young Ross going at some point. We've obviously spoke about the good stuff. Just one more thing I just wanted to kind of touch on. I know we've touched on it very briefly. Was just some of the numbers. I think very, very good to see Tierney. Tierney get a lot of credit for man of the match, and I get that because he get 2 goals and an assist, and maybe I'm being slightly harsh, but I actually thought his ball retention was quite poor sometimes throughout last night. Listen, see if he's going to score 2 goals and create another one every game. I couldn't really care less if he loses the ball a handful of times, but I think his ball retention, there was a couple of times he kind of lost it. A couple of times we kind of broke up the park and it maybe broke down. I thought Lawrence was similar, to be honest. Albeit I thought he was really poor at Kilmarnock, but he had bounced back well. But I think one of the things that is quite good at the minute, Ross, and you mentioned it, mate, was the numbers we're getting from these guys. I think Tierney has got 5 goals and 3 assists. We're only, towards the end of October. I think you project that out towards the season, you're looking at 15-ish goals from a winger, which is something we've been crying out for. Likewise, Tom Lawrence, I think I said this, I don't know if it was maybe on the podcast or if it was on Twitter or WhatsApp or whatever. Tom Lawrence gets a hell of a lot of stick, including off me, for a guy that has probably got us through a few games this season. I think at Dundee United away scored the only goal. I think Hibs at home he scored the only goal as well, that cracker. It's two big goals that he scored for this club, and I get that he frustrates a lot of people, but again, Tom Lawrence, I think, has got 5 goals in the last 7 games. The ball breaks down a bit. He makes some silly decisions at times, which I think frustrates us. But it's really good to start seeing these guys contributing numbers, and then obviously a man who got off the mark as well, mate.
No, definitely, mate, definitely. I think for me, it's just, again, I'll use the word again, it's encouraging that we're not relying on a right back to score our goals for us. I think you go back to last season before, if Tav's injured, we're not scoring anywhere near the goals that we'd be scoring. So at least if we're getting the spread out the team, that's going to do some good. I think the only dilemma in there, and it's a bit baffling to say, is that our striker isn't scoring goals just now. Not never mind scoring goals, he's not getting any touch to the ball. So that's a concern there. But take it, Dessers aside, I think we need to give men like Tierney, men like Tom Lawrence especially some praise, because you're right, without them we're not winning games. That game against Hibs, if you drop points against Hibs at home, especially after the weekend, you're a bit of a rough place. So now I'm delighted, and hopefully when Cortez is back, he can start contributing to the goals. Obviously, Barami as well scored that goal away against Malmo. If you can get him on the score sheet, whether is playing at the left, is maybe enabling him to score the goals that we've seen him on the YouTube compilations from the number 10, the screamers that I can only dream of. So more goals from all about the pitch. Is well needed, but we're also needing goals from the number 9 mate. But we need to do that when he's on the pitch.
No, he does, mate. And listen, I know I'm getting a wee bit of stick, being a wee bit harsh. I'm just perfectionist. I think 2 goals and an assist is brilliant for Tierney. He got us through last night with his contribution, but I just think against slightly better teams, that kind of ball retention and losing the ball, some teams will punish you. We've seen that with Lyon. We've seen how quickly they punished us when we lost the ball in their half. They were up the park in 5 or 6 seconds, right, and in and around our box. So we do just need to be wary of that. Ross, you touch on Cyril Dessers. Cyril Dessers is a bit of a problem for us at the minute. I've seen a stat. I don't know if it was a Heart and Hand Boys or Rangers review. Cyril Dessers had something like 11 touches of the ball in the first half versus Kilmarnock, and I think he lost the ball 7 of those 11 occasions. Something like that, right? It was a pretty alarming stat. Last night as well, Dessers done very little for me, right? He looked a bit of a man down. He looks almost like if you stick a guy into a game that's way beyond his level and he just kind of runs about. He never really seems to be near the ball or near centre halves to be able to impact the game for me. There was a couple of occasions there where the ball was getting into their defenders and he just looks miles off it. And again, I seen a stat last night. I think it was for the 60 odd minutes or whatever it was that Dessers played, he didn't have a shot on goal. Now, if you think about a game where Bucharest are not a fantastic team, we've beaten them 4-0. It could have been 5, 6 or 7 if we'd been slightly more clinical, and your centre forward doesn't manage a single shot. That's quite concerning for me. On the contrast, Igaman came on, played 20 minutes, had 2 shots, 2 on target, scored 1. He was actually very unlucky with that one that kind of pinballed about the box. He done brilliantly, used the kind of upper body strength to throw the defender out, and had a sort of left foot half volley that the keeper get down and managed to save. I thought he'd scored a second one, but Dessers is becoming a wee bit of a problem, mate. And that brings me on to the incident as well, because I'm keen to get your view on what the hell happened. So I was a bit confused because I spoke about that Jefte piece a minute ago. Dessers seems to get a poke in the eye or an elbow in the face or whatever it is 5 or so minutes before I think Tierney scores his second goal. He's down, he's complaining about it quite a bit. He seems to be kind of playing about with his eyes. He's obviously having bother with his eye. But he obviously plays on. We have that brilliant piece of play where Tierney goes up the park and puts away the third, and Dessers gets decked again. And I watched back the highlights today, and actually at that point I heard the commentator saying something about Dessers was signalling to maybe come off. But I didn't hear it at the time. And I thought at one point, because people were texting the WhatsApp going, what the hell's happened? Like, Dessers has just charged off the pitch. He's right up the tunnel. I didn't know if he'd been subbed and he was a bit peed off or been taken off because he hasn't contributed or whatever. It looks in hindsight that he's kind of got a stab in the eye, and he's just walked off the park, because I think Igaman was still kicking about with his jacket on. He wasn't even properly warmed up. What was your thoughts on the situation, mate? And I guess Dessers' performance last night?
Yeah, I think the situation, it's very, very strange. I think Carney actually put it very perfectly last night. Dessel doesn't make the decisions at Rangers. Nobody makes the decisions at Rangers above the manager. I think that if that is what we think it is and it has walked off, that's a complete watershed moment for Dessers, in which, I'm actually, just now I'm reading Alex Ferguson's autobiography just now, actually, and the one thing he says fundamentally as a manager, you cannot lose the dressing room. See if anybody thinks that they're above you in the football hierarchy, you've lost. You've lost. And Dessers, for a guy who, if he has the, I guess, audacity to do that, he'd be scoring 20 goals by now. As a player, if you're gonna have that confidence about you, you'd at least have a bit about you. Dessers just now, I think, was it 5 games that he's not scored yet, or something like that. He's a guy who last night, for somebody who is on a goal drought, a team like FCSB, if they're coming to Ibrox, you should be licking your lips at that and going, right, I need to get back and about it, get a goal, maybe get two. He did not look interested at all. And I think I saw another thing on Twitter that Dessers, for the 57 minutes he was on, Agamani had like 7 more touches on him, and he was on for the latter half hour. I mean, come on, that's for a guy who, as I say, if he has the audacity to walk off the park like he owns the place, well, don't do it in the first place, but if you're going to make some sort of statement, back up in the pitch, because that's all that matters for us. So I think it's disappointing, because there was a time a few weeks ago where Dessers was your first name in the team sheet. I think it was coming up to before Old Firm. He scored a few goals at Hampden, and you're looking at Dessers going, right, you could be onto something after the the stick he was getting from the fans. He's somehow rised up from it. I feel like he's fallen right back into there, and it's looking like it's the fault of his own. So that is frustrating. He'll probably look back at hindsight and say, "Oh, I wish I didn't do that." For us as fans, mate, there's no use to us. It's no use to us at all. It's again. I think if it all come out in the wash, that could be a big moment for Cyril Dessers. He doesn't get a start for me on Sunday, and I'm hoping to see an explanation for it soon. But yeah, just a bit baffling for me, mate, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed. It was weird, and I think. Listen, Dessers. If I'm going to give him any praise, I think the guy has a strong mentality. Right, there is a lot of players that would have folded like origami under the pressure or the jeers and some of the issues that he's had to deal with. I think if you recall back to his first couple of months with Rangers, particularly under Beale, everybody was scratching their head going, what is this guy offering here? And I remember there was the kind of sarcastic laughing and clapping and stuff like that when he was taking off games. But to go and score 22 goals last year, and I was the same as you, Ross. I don't think Dessers has ever got to a level where I thought, you know what, he's good enough to be our mainstay number 9, but he was showing improvements. I think there was a wee period there where he scored kind of 6 or 7 goals in as many games, and I actually thought, you know what, he'll end up going winning the Golden Boot in Scotland, right? Because what he'll do is he'll score a barrel load of goals against your Ross Counties, against your Hibs, against your St Johnstones when you're at Ibrox. He'll not score at Parkhead, right? He'll not score at Pittodrie. He'll not score in big games at Rugby Park. But he'll stat pad a wee bit, and he'll end up winning the Golden Boot. But you're right, mate. He's completely fallen away from that again. And I guess the only challenge for me, Ross, and I'm keen to get your views, is are we cutting off our nose to spite our face a wee bit with this, right? Because we're not awash with centre forward options, right? Igaman has shown flashes. Is he ready to go and play 50 games a year? I think if you ask Philip Clement, he would tell you no. I don't know. Fans might have a different view. Danilo, we don't really know where he's with. I know he played with the B team during the week there. He scored a goal, but he's not in the Europa League squad. He still, for me, I still think he is a bit off. He's a bit away. And if Dessers has a serious injury to his eye that keeps him out for a period of time, we could find ourselves in a wee bit of bother.
No, definitely, mate, definitely. I think you're right in terms of options there. We are extremely light. I remember being on the pod as soon as the European squad list was out, and you saw there was no Danilo, and it is just Agamani and Dessers. Obviously, Lovelace is in there as well, but in terms of a striker that's gonna be a starting lead in the line, Dessers is a guy. I think that we can't afford to drop him just now, especially in European games. But that's what makes it even more frustrating when he doesn't take his opportunity to really grasp that number 9 jersey. Is it maybe a bit of, I don't know. Don't get me wrong, Sligo Dessers, any Rangers player, they're living the dream. They've done what I couldn't do. We all dream of being a footballer. They've ended up making it a full time career. Is it a bit of entitlement that he maybe sees? I've got this number 9 shirt. I don't think anybody's going to take it away from me. Obviously, in hindsight, that's before Agamani scores. But maybe Dessers is looking at it in a case of, I don't see much competition here, and it's something we've moaned about before about players being too comfortable in their positions. I don't know if maybe Dessers fallen into that bracket. But I think the one thing that you can't do as a player is lose the fans, and the fans got right back on board the Dessers, and they're slowly starting to turn their back on them. But no, I to be fair, mate, you make a great point. Obviously we can't, I guess, take for granted Dessers. We can't just, in a way, we can't write him off just now. We'll need to see who we can bring in January, because I think we'll need to probably bring in a striker in January by the looks of it. Who that is, I'm not sure, but it's such a annoying one with Dessers just now, and one that I hope that we can find a solution for pretty soon.
Yeah, Justin Muir has cried for Shankland in January. I'm not sure I can see that happening. He's another one that seems to went off the boil a wee bit, but we'll see. But yeah, I think just obviously last night, brilliant performance, far improved from Rugby Park. I think you make a good point, Ross. Bucharest are maybe not the level required to make a serious assessment of where this team is. There is still 2 big challenges over the next 5 or 6 days that we need to overcome, and then people can start believing again that maybe we can go on a bit of a run if we manage to come through the both of them unscathed. But obviously, we've spoke a lot about the good last night. Just quickly as well, obviously Tom Lawrence took a bit of a knock. I hope it is not a long term. I know we've had frustrations about Tom Lawrence being in and out of the team. As you say, Ross, he scored big goals. Hopefully it's not a long-term thing. And yes, Cyril Dessers as well. Obviously now that we have a bit of clarity that it looks as though it was an injury that forced him off, we probably hope that it's not long-term as well, and Dessers can at least be in the squad for the weekend, which provides a fantastic segue, Ross, is almost as if it was planned, into the weekend's game. Obviously, I said we've got a massive week coming up. We've got 3 big fixtures. We've ticked off the first one. The next one is St Mirren. St Mirren are, I think, 8th in the table. So they're just below half mid-table. Only won one of the last 5 or 6 games, not on any real run of form, St Mirren. But it's a massive game for us. It's Sunday, it's Ibrox, it's 3 p.m. What are you expecting from us, and what are you expecting from St Mirren on Sunday, mate?
Yeah, I think you're right, there's a certain game next Wednesday night on the horizon that's got a lot of people talking about it. But Sunday should be a game that should hopefully set a tone to go into that game. Obviously we'll look further into the Aberdeen game next week, but Aberdeen currently will probably be licking their lips at the thought of us coming up there. We are very much domestically the wounded animal. So if we can, get a wee bit of confidence back about the squad at the weekend, then it'll do us good. St Mirren, 1 point out of the last 12 away from home. I think I don't need to reiterate it, 3 points, nothing less, nothing less at all. Off the back of a 4-0 loss to Hearts, there's no excuse, and for me there's potentially, after us being on a right good goal scoring form last night, to go on and do the same again. I'm expecting hopefully 3 or 4 goals from Rangers. I'm hoping that the team can go and do it. So now, mate, looking forward to it. we need, as I say, just something to set a tone for next week. We can't be going into next Wednesday, you going, we had that midweek European game, but then it's back to the domestic lacklustre. So a bit of something that we can come away feeling like we are just now after last night, and that'd be brilliant. Mr. Rangers up the class.
Yeah, I think St Mirren always seem to be a bit of a tricky opposition for us, particularly in Paisley. Maybe not so much as Ibrox, but if I recall over the last couple of years, they've given us a bit of a game quite a lot. But no, I'm the same as you, mate. I just want to see more. I want to see more of what we've seen for the vast majority of the game last night. I want to see us just suffocate them. I don't envisage St Mirren are going to come here and play expansive football and play everything in our half and be attacking. I suspect they will come and do what the vast majority of SPFL teams do, which is they will play one or maybe two guys up top who are either big and strong or they'll be short and quick to try and stretch our defence. And they'll camp 9 or 10 guys in their own half and try and catch us on the break. They'll try and win free kicks, corners, etc., etc. But I want to see more of what we've seen last night, Ross. I want to see us suffocating them. I want us to bring back the old kind of Steven Gerrard 4 or 5 second rule. You lose the ball, you get it back in 4 or 5 seconds. I want to see us hunting down the ball in packs, and just give them no room to breathe. Because I was saying this to Scott the other day there, which is we've all played football. You've all come up against teams who are and boys who are slightly better at football than you. And yeah, you can set yourself up in a structure and you can make it really difficult for you. But when these teams are aggressive and they're constantly on you and they're chasing the ball and they don't give you a second to breathe, it's not just the physical energy, it's a mental energy as well, right? You need to be switched on for a full 90 minutes. And a lot of the teams in the SPFL don't have the capability to do that. And you will see gaps open. You'll see them make mistakes. And that's what we need to do. We just need to be relentless. We've got the energy. We've got the players who've got the fitness there. We're fitter. We're stronger. We're quicker than the St Mirren team. And we need to go and show it, mate. And hopefully we get another win, another clean sheet, and we get 3 points and up the road, as you say, Ross. So I will come on to teams and result, Ross. I will allow you to go first, mate. What are you going to pick? Are you going to pick the team you're playing, or are you going to try and predict what Clermont will play?
I'll go Matt.
Clermont's?
I've got written down Clermont's, to be fair.
Go for that, and then tell me if you would make any changes yourself, mate, and then the score.
Perfect, all good. I think Butland and goal, it'll be Tav, Suter, Proper, Jefte, midfield 3. I think Barron put in a shift last night. Barron and Raskin put in a shift. I think Raskin will stay in the team, despite having a lack of minutes. So it'll be Raskin, Barron, Diamande in midfield. Front 3 of Barami, Tierney and Igamani for me. In terms of who I'd change, I think Clermont's he said that Tavernier isn't going to play 50, 60 games a season. Is St Mirren at home, a team who, as I say, 1 point out of the last 12 away, is that the opportunity to, under the Ibrox crowd, give Casemiro a start? Casemiro's had one start for us. It was away against Malmo, was man of the match, and he's not had a start since. So I think, and that's not me, I'm not just having a go at Tav for the sake of it, for Casemiro's sake, to give the guy a wee bit of, he came on last night at right back, pushed Tav a wee bit forward. Can we reward him with a bit of a, just something, a start to hopefully get his confidence back up? But other than that, mate, I'd say the team that I picked for Clermont's close to what I'd probably pick as well. Maybe Raskin will come out, and do you see the likes of Kieran Dowell come back in? Wouldn't it surprise me if Clermont... I know. You know what Clermont's like. He seems to not mind Kieran Dowell, especially if he does like that number 10, and since Tom Lawrence isn't playing. I would not be starting Kieran Dowell, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't put it past him either. But I think, as I say, mate, we need to go out there, score some goals. And for that reason, I'm going 4-0 Rangers. I think we're going to do the same as last night. And Barami back in the score sheet. Hopefully get my goal and want to silence the sheep next week.
Justin Muir, thank you very much, mate. As always, Ali's not here, mate, but God bless America and Ali's voice and the salute as well, mate. No, appreciate all your support, as always, mate. In terms of the team for me, Ross, much the same. I think and if I was picking who Clement I think will pick, I think I might actually have the same team. Butland, Tav, Suter. Who did you have centre back? Was Suter, Balogun, or Proper?
I put Proper. I'm just guessing that Balogun is not out.
I'd Proper as well, mate. Jefte left back. I had a midfield three of Raskin, Barron and Diomande. Front three of Czerny, Igaman and Barami as well. I think Lawrence will miss it. I said last night, Lawrence looked a bad one. The thing that concerns me about Lawrence is I think, I might have got the legs the wrong way round here, right? But if he took the hit on his left leg, he actually was holding his right leg. Or if it was vice versa, I can't remember. But whatever leg you get hit on the tackle, it was actually his other leg, which I always get a bit concerned about when players get down holding things and it's not through an impact injury. So I do think there's maybe an issue there with him. In terms of changes I would make, I'm the same as you, mate. Clement spoke about not playing Tav 50 or 60 games a season, and yet he's, correct me if I'm wrong, he started every bloody game this season already. There needs to be an integration of Casa or Sterling in at right back. It looks like Casemiro has certainly the backup right back jersey at the minute over Sterling. I don't know what the long-term plans are for Sterling, but Casa seems to have it. I would play him. We talk about that energy, that press, that aggression. He's got it in abundance. Tav has been fantastic over the years, but his legs are going for me. His legs are going. There is serious miles in his legs, and he just doesn't have the same energy, and he's not as dynamic as what he was 2-3 years ago anymore. So I would get him in. I've seen a lot of comments as well, by the way. I agree with the guys. Proper does not fill me with confidence right now. I think I agree with you, and I put a post in last night. Is it bad that our best centre-half is a guy who's 37 years old that is signing one-year extensions every year? But I think he is. I think you go back to... He's a top professional, Balogun. You go back to Walter's second stint, he brought in Davy Weir. Davy Weir must have been, 38 at the time, right? Looked after his sale. Balogun looks as... I'm not saying he's as good as Davy Weir, but he seems to be of that ilk where he really looks after his sale. He's got the right mentality. You always look at his post-match interviews, etc. When we drop points, he's always bang on the money. I think Balogun allows us to press slightly higher as well because he's got that recovery pace with Suter. I think Proper looks in trouble when he comes up against pace. I think he's slow. And I quite like Balogun because what it allows you to do is it allows you to press right up into their half, knowing that Suter and Balogun are quite quick and they can kind of come back and cover, mate. So I would like to see both Casa and Balogun in. Whether Clement will do it, I'm not really too sure. I'm not going quite as aggressive as you, mate. I'm going to go a subtle 2-0, and I'm going to go Igaman again. I think Igaman will get off the mark, mate. I think he'll score first tomorrow, mate. So listen, we are pretty much bang on the hour. It's been a really good pod, a lot different from the last couple. It's good to be come on and chatting about positive things and not getting sidetracked with what the board's doing and when we're sacking managers, etc. So it was enjoyable, mate. Ross, thank you very much for coming on tonight, mate.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure. No, it was for the B team. I think that was a strong performance from us. I think the gaffer will be happy with that. But no, listen, it's good. It's good to be back on talking about some positive things for Rangers. Just as I say, bit of attacking intent on Sunday. Go out. We've got a massive week ahead. Something that can really, from what looked like last week, to be the season going on a bit of a downward slope. If we can pick us back up, use last night as a bit of a bounce. Let's see where it takes us. So no, thank you as always, mate. Have a good rest of your weekend, everybody in the chat, and play up the famous Glasgow Rangers.
Indeed, mate. Yes, thanks everybody who's tuned in, everybody for commenting, and everybody getting involved in the chat. It's always good to see a healthy debate amongst our players and our squad. Yes, I hope everybody has a good weekend. As Scott said, I hope your team wins on Sunday. We have been Club at 22, the Rangers podcast. Have a good one, everybody.